Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
We are back. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, and I know you probably get sick of me saying this, thanks for believing in me and supporting this great cause. It means the world to me. I'd like to give a shout out to my sponsors. Maury Nutrition, they have a drink called Calm. It's for people who struggle with anxiety. They're the official drink of the BeliefCast, which is really cool. Wasatch Recovery, Siegfried and Jensen, and Thread Wallets. And then the music you heard at the beginning and at the end of this podcast is by my good friend Paul Cardall. He's an award-winning pianist. He's got an amazing story himself. He's been on a few times, as you guys know. Amazing person. Thank you for letting us use your beautiful music, Paul. You are the best. And today, we have an awesome guest today, Taylor Napierski. Did I say it right?
Perfectly.
Wow, I did it.
Yeah, nailed it.
I
First
did
time.
Taylor and I got connected on LinkedIn through some mutual friends and mutual contacts. And I really do. I can already tell before you even got here, you're a very energetic person. Is that fair to say that?
That's fair. I have to keep up with my wife, who is the most energetic person.
And I think it started with the picture you sent me. He sends me this picture that we're going to use, and it's actually up here in the studio. And he's got a really beautiful, thick mustache on there.
Yeah. It leaves not a lot to the imagination. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I actually cut it off not long ago. I grow it out randomly, just at random times, and
I love it.
Yeah, it is what it looks like. It's not
No, it looks good. You look great. No, it looks great. But yeah, little background on you. You've been through some things in your life. A house fire. Your wife had a diagnosis of PTSD, the unexpected death of your mom. You almost lost your son. But through these things, you've learned a lot of great lessons, and we're going to get into those things. Yeah. But I want people to get to know you even from when you were younger.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Where did you grow up, and tell us a little bit about your family?
Yeah, happy to. And I can't lie about it. I had the most wonderful childhood. We grew up in Orem. I was the youngest of 8 kids. I had 2 hardworking parents.
Youngest of 8. Did you guys hear that? It took me a second for that to compute. Youngest of 8.
Yeah.
Dang.
I have a brother that's just, goodness gracious, he's 8 or 9 years older than me. He just had his 12th, so he's continuing on the legacy,
wow.
keeping the Napierski name alive.
Boy, I'll say.
And you know, we had. I think about this often with my own kids. We had the childhood that every parent today dreams their kids would have. We didn't have a lot of means. We really struggled as a family to make ends meet. Everybody chipped in. We mowed lawns and picked up garbage at hospitals. And we had, my parents through their work had connections to doctors that would allow us to come over and do their yard work and pick up garbage at their house. And we learned a lot of lessons through that. All of us worked hard to try and contribute. But, you know, we spent our days playing, and we lived in a cul-de-sac that was surrounded by amazing people.
Nice.
Great kids. You know, technology wasn't a big thing back then. I think my aunt bought us a Nintendo 64 back for a holiday. She was a little bit better off than we were, and she bought us a 64, and that was fun. But we were outside, and we just grew up just playing.
Seems like kids aren't as outside as much because of social media or video games or what have you.
Yeah. I also think that there's a problem with the adults, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's what I've realized today is
sure.
I was telling my kids, we drove down to Orem where we grew up, and we drove to both sides of the block, and I was showing them, I said, we used to dress in camouflage, and we would play a game where we had to cross the whole block in people's backyards without getting caught. And when you got caught, you know, somebody would holler at you and you'd get in trouble, and then you went on your way. And I think as adults and parents and, you know, communities now, we're so nervous about letting kids be kids. Yeah. And so they miss a lot of those opportunities, and it's just easier to put them on technology. And that, I think it's more of a parent issue. That's what I've learned, at least through my own experiences. It's much more convenient to let my kids just get on devices. And that's, I think, hurting them in the long run. Right. But But
it is convenient for sure. So youngest of 8, talk about that. Like, did you like being the youngest? Obviously you don't know any different,
Yeah.
but how was that?
It was amazing. I'm closer to certain siblings because some were a little bit older as I was growing up, and so I didn't get to know them quite as well. I have a couple brothers and sisters that I'm closer to now, and I think that's always been the way, since we were young.
Yeah.
I had a really protective older brother that was just a year older than me, and that was a lot of fun. He and I had good times, and very, very different. He's the complete opposite of me, but we have a good friendship, and he was always there to watch over me, which was great. My parents were both working, and so they were gone most of the time. My dad was always the hardest working guy I'd ever met.
Yeah.
But he was, he'd tool around in the garage, and he was always trying to fix the mowers or something, and the old cars that we had to try and keep them running. And so we just fend for ourselves, and thankfully we had good relationships and great grandparents who moved out to help provide some support, and they were close by. And so now that I have 3 of my own kids, I think I should have listened to my wife and had 1 or 2 more, because the time passes quickly.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You don't realize that. You're thinking, man, we're at our max.
Yeah.
But then later on, you kind of go, well, we could maybe have had a few more.
Always a little more in the tank, right? And now
Yeah.
that they're old, my youngest is 8.5, and I just think that's a tough chapter to close, and one that I struggle with a lot.
Yeah. I do have to say, I have 4 kids, and they're all out of the house now.
Beautiful kids, by the way.
Thank you.
Looking at the
I
picture,
appreciate it. Thankfully, they look like their mom.
as they do.
But this time in life, too, is also amazing because it's almost like it's a different connection with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's actually even deeper. We see them every weekend still. And it is as hard as you're thinking, well, but it's amazing that as time goes, you'll just keep formulating and cultivating that relationship in a way that's just going to enrich your life even more.
So true. I had a brother of mine, I was asking him, I said, have you struggled with this sort of this next chapter and letting go? Because it's something I really battle with, wanting to hang on to that. And he said, I stopped focusing on what I was losing, and I looked at the new chapters and what I was gaining with them. And I thought, man, what a great way to look at that. He said, I'm looking at college experiences, and they're going to get married and have children and all of these things. And it's all a new, exciting thing, although different than it was in the past. And so, but I haven't yet internalized that all the way.
It'll take a minute.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I remember I saw on my 30th, my wife surprised me on for my 30th birthday, and she had made a video of my life and and our kids. I was a complete mess, but seeing my kids younger even then, and I was crushed. I'm going, they were just, now they're not, it's like, and it's almost like I had this good cry, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good to go.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's go to the next phase. But so I'm sure you'll have a few of those. So, so you grow up in that. You obviously had a great childhood. Sounds like you're very active outside.
Yeah.
So what kind of kid were you? Were you like a confident kid? Were you, did you struggle? What were some of the things maybe you wrestled with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was a floater, I made friends with everybody. I don't recall, having a best friend per se. I had a best friend when I was younger, but coming up through junior high and high school, I just sort of floated. I was lucky enough. I met my wife when she was 11 and I was 12. We lived around the corner from each other.
So you've known her for your whole life, basically.
Long time. Yeah, I think it was 29 years now, and which is a lot when you're 40, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
So she just turned 40 yesterday. So happy birthday to
happy
her.
birthday.
And so I grew up with various people, lots of different friends, different groups and backgrounds. I didn't get to play sports. We as a family needed to put our efforts into providing and trying to make some ends meet, and so I was encouraged to go and work, and so that limited where I participated at school, and I didn't focus a lot on my grades, although I wasn't a terrible student. I dated my wife through part of high school, and again, she was just an influence for good forever. And even when we weren't spending a lot of time together as friends or together, she was just a great positive influence. And I always wanted to be like her, although different gender, of course, but just I admired so much about her. And that kept me generally straight and as far as what pathway I chose. And And so I just sort of floated and I tried to get things done. I was always interested in business. I loved how businesses operated. I loved that they did so much good in the way of providing for people and allowing people to have families and provide. And I always saw what our family was like and where we struggled, and sort of had this internal feeling that I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted my children to not have some of the same struggles that we had, although it helped shape who I am today.
Sure, yeah.
But I just thought if I can learn a little bit more about how business works and where I might fit in all of that, it would serve me well. And so that led me to my undergraduate and then to graduate school and so on. And it's been kind of history since then.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's in, I think as you were talking about businesses and what attracted you to that was, we don't realize they're actually supporting people to have a family and to be able to provide.
Yeah.
I think we miss that. I know I do.
For sure.
Right. But yet that's really ultimately, you think of these big corporations, instead of going, oh yeah, we're this or that. Well, think about how many families they're allowing to live their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it really changes the way you look at it. And so when you said that, it really hit me.
Yeah. I'm really privileged. I've worked for some great companies, and there are, of course, businesses and organizations out there that don't use their profits for good, and they have questionable talent and leaders and things.
Right.
And I look at my experience and even now I work for a tech startup, and I have a founding team there that are just incredible. The whole team is amazing. And, startups are tough, and people are being laid off right now, and that's hard to watch, and close friends that are losing their jobs. And, I'm so grateful for my employer. I'm grateful that, he's a childhood friend actually from kindergarten. And
you've stayed well connected to your childhood. I
guess, yeah. We connected after 20 years, but him and the rest of the founding team, they literally put food on the table for my family. And we've had significant, accidents in our house that have required, a lot of hospital time and things, and the insurance I have. And, I think we villainize a lot of people and, those who are running businesses. But I look at these guys that I work with now, and they're putting in long hours, and they spend a lot of energy and time away from their families to ensure that all the rest of us have good things. And that's always been sort of an inspiration of, I hope I can get to a place someday where I do that on my own and have an opportunity to make a difference like that.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well said. So what does your company do exactly? Do you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. So Pronto is a technology, a communications platform for higher education. So if you think of some of the tools, iMessage, Zoom, Slack, if you were to sort of marry those, we have done that, and then we work specifically in education. So universities, colleges. So we have, Harvard, Oxford, some at BYU. We have great institutions that run on Pronto, and it connects students to them, to their peers, and also to their professors. And I think the one thing we've learned is that education is not so much the way it used to be, where you work on your homework at night and you are independent and you go to sit in the classroom. We've built a tool recognizing that most people are not in the classroom, that people feel that sense of isolation and loneliness. And if we can build those relationships with students, between students, and with their faculty, where they can engage in real time instead of send an email out to somebody and hope that it gets answered in a week or something. And so it's a really neat tool that's making a difference in education. We've helped hundreds of thousands of students stay in school and graduate, which is awesome. A really neat thing. We've done some neat studies there. So it's been just an incredible experience.
Wow. And how long have you been there?
I've been there 3 years now.
Okay.
And then I was with other technology companies, ZocDoc, ZipRecruiter, and some others before that, doing operations stuff. So love seeing how they work and where we can make adjustments. So,
well, it's, as challenging as a startup is, it's also very exciting.
It is.
Right?
For sure.
Because you get to create, it's new. What's going to happen next? Yeah. There's some excitement to it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that it's not for everybody. That's what I've learned. I have good friends and peers and people I admire that are not in the space, and I think this might not be the right fit for you. It's long hours and it's unscripted and everybody does everything, and there are times where you feel like things are going so great, and there are other times where you think, man, I don't know how long you can do this. And so, again, thankfully, the founders that we have at Pronto, they came on and have put in just endless hours to get us to a place where we're doing good, and we don't have quite as much stress, but it's not like we've been around forever and don't have things to worry about.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you said something that you sent to me that really stood out to me, and I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
And it'll probably stem a good conversation here, obviously. It says you mastered the art of gleaning wisdom from adversity.
Yeah.
I love that, by the way, and I've got my own take on that, but I want to hear yours first and where that comes from and why you would even say that.
Yeah. And we'd probably all benefit from your thoughts more than mine.
I don't know about that.
So, we grew up, my wife and I have been married now 18, coming up on 19 years. And we've known each other, like I said, for much longer than that.
Yeah.
And, I remember just a few years back thinking that my life was pretty easy. I didn't have a lot of difficulty, illnesses and other things. Didn't struggle with, say, addictions or things like that. And I remember thinking like, okay, we're doing all right. Life's working out.
Yeah, life's going in a good direction.
And the devil always gets his due, right? And so I think it was just a few short years ago, we did move into a house. We had a house fire. I didn't lose the whole house, thankfully. 2 of our kids were inside at the moment, and thankfully got out. We actually pulled up as it was on fire.
So it was during the day.
During the day on a Saturday, I put a mirror outside, and it reflected. It was in Phoenix and caught the house on fire.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So the reflection from the sun
caught the garbage cans, and the garbage cans caught the house. And so
no way. I laugh because my brother used to live in Cave Creek, Arizona, and he would send me pictures. He would send me pictures in the middle of the summer of the temperature in his car. 125.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And he had black leather seats. I'm going, dude, you're toast, man. He's like,
risky.
tell me about it.
Yeah,
He
risky.
goes, this is miserable.
Yeah.
So that's why I laughed. It's like Arizona's heat's no joke.
Yeah, and I couldn't. I mean, my wife knows I am the least masculine man ever. I couldn't build a fire like ever, and then I caught my house on fire with a mirror. So I feel like I'm doing really well.
See, now
it
you
moved
know.
me up a few notches.
Just take
on the
a mirror
scale.
with you.
Yeah. Take a mirror anywhere I need to go. So we had that, and that's a longer story, but the bigger issue I think that came from that, or the bigger struggle, was my wife just a few days after the fire woke up in the middle of the night hearing the doorbell that we had on that house. She had rung the doorbell trying to get the attention of our kids. We had left the keys in the car and all of our chaos, and she woke up hearing that chime, and that persisted for quite a while, and led to some other complications. And this was in the middle of COVID. We couldn't get a therapist to visit us, to see us. We had referrals all over the place, and people were saying, we can meet in February, we can meet in April. And I'm thinking, I can't go 6 months with this, and she surely couldn't do another 6 months of it. And so we worked through that, and we decided we would move back to Utah. We had no family in Arizona, so we thought we'll come back around family and get some support. My parents were here, my siblings, her siblings, and we packed up. And the day before we moved back, my mom died suddenly of brain cancer.
The day you moved back?
Yeah, the day before we moved back. And so she had been in remission, and we thought everything was good there.
Okay,
and then there were some complications. I had visited her with her that morning on the phone, and she was doing relatively well.
Sure.
And then the next thing I know, I got a call from her brother saying she was in the hospital. This was at around lunchtime or so. And I said, but I just talked to her, this morning, and she's doing fine. And he said, no, it's life ending. And I said, wait, hold on a minute. What are we talking about?
Man.
So I left right then. My wife's parents drove down, helped drive the moving truck up, and came up and tried to be with the family. I watched her pass away on FaceTime, which was a pretty crappy way to watch a parent pass.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
All my siblings were able to make it to the hospital, so thankfully she was there with people, and my dad was there with people that
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was tough, and we've all dealt with loss, right? And so there's no good way to deal with it.
Right.
But my mom was my hero. She recognized the things in me that I didn't see, and was always there taking care of me and providing for me. And I remember she spent hundreds of dollars. My dad would throw a fit if he knew this, but she spent hundreds of dollars.
He's gonna know now.
Yeah, right. He's gonna know when he hears this. But she spent some money on all this soccer gear for me, and I was the worst soccer player of all time. I mean, I was like, I knew there was not a chance under the sun that I was going to go anywhere with it. But she made sure that I had that stuff, and I had the chance for the last 6 months before she passed. I'd call her a couple times a week, and I'd ask her questions that I just had never had the chance to ask.
Yeah.
One of those was, I know we struggled financially, but you seem to always make it a priority for us to have things like this soccer gear. And she just said, if there was anything that would help build our confidence, then she would do whatever it took to make sure we had that. So we'd go to 7-Eleven, she'd fill up her car with gas and buy a Slurpee, and then this is back when people used checks, and she would always go up and say, "Can I write the check for $20 over?"
Yeah.
So my dad wouldn't find out that it was being, money spent. It would just look like gasoline.
Yeah, right.
And so anyways,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a hard experience to lose her.
Boy, I bet. What, I know this is going to be a tough question, but what's one of the biggest lessons that you learned from your mom?
Well, I look back and I think there's two things. One is that our role as individuals is to love unconditionally. Mm-hmm. And that is really hard. Like if we really step back and objectively think about that, that's really tough. The amount of judgment that I know I have toward other people, even when I'm trying not to, makes it really tough to love people. And my mom, anybody who knew her, we had kids at our house all the time. All of my siblings and their friends would be over because everybody loved her. She was always made people feel special. And I think that was the thing that set her apart from anybody else. We didn't have a lot, but you always knew you were going to get a warm hug from my mom. And she was always there to lift you up and invest in you and make you feel like somebody special. And so I think, for me, as I look back and try to live through her, or at least help her legacy carry on, I think, man, what can I do to try and lift others? And some days I think I do good at that, and most of the time I probably don't. But, I think as long as we're trying, that's what matters.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Well, you move up here, your mom passes suddenly, but your wife is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you navigate that? Because that had to have been even more difficult for her, because she's still got her struggles. Then watching you go through this definitely probably didn't help what she was struggling with.
Yeah, she, bless her heart, she is just the most miraculous human being. And anyone who knows her, she's a lot like my mom. She is just so full of energy, and people just really are attracted to her. And she had lost a little bit of that, through her struggle. And she knew it, and the rest of us knew it. And she'd always been so involved. She took care of so much around the house and with the kids and stuff that I had to step in there. And that was on top of managing a job and trying to care for her. Then I was trying to take care of the kids to some degree. And so it was a tough thing all around. Thankfully, the only therapist we were able to find happened to be here in Highland. And we met with her for the first time when we were here the week before we moved back. We were here looking for a home.
Okay.
And we got on a Zoom call, and she said, "I'm actually located in Highland, Utah." And we were like, "You've got to be kidding me." And so we said, "Well, we're in the Orem area." And so that was wonderful. And and she stumbled upon, through this therapist, EMDR, and that was the thing that worked for her. And so
EMDR is powerful.
I knew nothing about it.
We do that here, with our clients.
And I have to be honest, I thought it was hocus pocus.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
She told me about it, and I was like, "What are we doing? Like, what are you
Who's
talking
this person?
about? Yeah, this is
Here,
crazy."
Follow my finger.
Yeah, and I listening, I was like, I thought this is going to be interesting, and then I also thought, you have to relive this, like you have to unpack this, and I knew, like, every time she came home from therapy that this was going to be a long day, a long night. There's going to be a lot to work through, but she was unbelievable in fighting through that and recognizing where she was, and she's done an amazing job. And we have certain things that we're mindful of now. It's been a few years, and we ensure that our doorbell doesn't function. We have good friends that are aware of the background, and so we're cautious in that area. We try to screen movies appropriately and make sure there aren't certain scenes and sounds and things like that. But she is just amazing, and she's come a long, long way. And
that's awesome.
And I think that the thing that I took away from all of this is, she went through this for a reason. and it was ugly and hard, and we're still not all the way through, and we have a lot to figure out. But as we work through the passing of my mom, and then just a few weeks later, the near passing of our son, I don't think I could have made it without my wife being in the place that she was.
Wow.
And so I hate to say that we are grateful for it. You know, it's tough, but she's been amazing.
I actually totally agree with that. And because I believe life happens for us.
Yeah.
I really do. Like, I took a drink of alcohol when I was 11 years old. That's why I'm talking to you today. I shouldn't be here. I should have died. Not at 11, but that opened up, 10 years of addiction. Shouldn't be here. But because of that, I get to talk to you today, Taylor.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. I wouldn't change a thing. Was it hard going through it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I think it's wonderful you're looking at it that way because it's so powerful.
Yeah, and it's easy to look at it the other way, right?
Easy.
And so,
yes.
I look back, and
it's hard to look at the other way.
I think one of the things that really changed my perspective, and it's sort of cliche, so bear with me, but Steve Jobs gave a commencement speech at Stanford,
I know what
right?
you're going to say. I love it.
And he ended that as he spoke about, we can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect them looking backwards. And I have so often reflected on that, shared that with my own children or others that are going through things that, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And I look at the battles we had with he put a mirror outside and it led to his wife's PTSD diagnosis. Like, what in the world? And I think that's just crazy. And now I look back and I go, it's amazing how these dots have connected. And we're now here in Utah. I'm sitting here with you. I have a great group of guys and girls that I work with. Great neighborhood. It's just amazing how it all comes together. But it's ugly during the process, for sure.
It is. And again, it's hard to see that when you're actually going through it. Just again, like what Steve Jobs is saying, you can look back and go, oh yeah, that led to this, that led to that. And here I am today.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm grateful for that.
If we could only have those dots connect a little faster,
I know.
Right?
Can you connect those a little faster?
Yeah.
Well, so what happened? You said you almost lost your son as well. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? Or
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah. And we're still processing this.
And whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
Yeah, no, it's good to unpack. My wife just recently, we sat down and she pointed out that I probably need to work through a few things. But we had bought my son a mountain bike for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And again, if you look at my hands, there's not much masculine about them, but mountain biking I thought would be a great idea, right? So we bought some mountain bikes and. We went out on the 26th of December. He and I drove over to Eagle Mountain Bike Park, and over there they have some little ramps. They have jumps, and then they have a little wooden ramps that you can ride on. And we kind of thought it'd be cool to ride one of these ramps. And so he said, "You go first," and I went first. And then I turned around. I parked at the end of the ramp where it comes down. It was kind of an S-curve ramp.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And I said, "All right, you go for it." And my last words were "full send it," which was sort of what he would always say.
Yeah.
He said, "Full send it,
Full
Dad."
send.
And so I yelled to him, and he went, and he made it until about 2 or 3 feet before the end, and he went off the side, and I jumped for him to try and catch him. I missed, and he went over the handlebars and landed in the snow mud and into a bush. And it sounded different. I could hear something that it just was really audible.
Oh boy.
And he had a helmet on, and he rolled over and he sat up and he was just looking at this bush. And it's cold. There's nobody else out there but us. We're up on the mountainside just a bit. And so I hopped off and I went over and I just grabbed him. I sat behind him and I held his head, pulled him back onto my chest, and we sat there for another 20 or 30 minutes. I couldn't get him to talk. He was just looking, and I thought, man, something is wrong.
Right.
And so, shame on me. I didn't pull out my phone. I don't remember if it was in the car or if I just thought he'd get better.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But we sat there for a moment and we had a few people walk by. Nobody stopped, which was disheartening. I remember.
Sure.
So after a little while, he started to move, and I realized, okay, I think I can get him down to the car. So I picked him up, and we carried him down. I ran back up, got the bikes. I called my wife on the way home. I said, "Hey, Bentley had an accident on his bike," and I said, "I don't know if something's wrong, but something seems off." And we took him home. I carried him in, put him on the couch, and he was thirsty, wanting water, and then he started asking if he could sit down. And I realized in that moment, like, wait a minute, he's already sitting down on the couch. Something's wrong. So we took him to the Instacare here, and knew he had hurt a shoulder, or like his arm was hurting him, and so we went in, and thankfully, when we took him back, they took him in on a wheelchair. The doctor said, "Hey, something looks wrong," and he wasn't bleeding. There was no blood anywhere. And so the doctor looked at his arm first, reset his shoulder, which had been dislocated, and he said, "I think something else is going on, and we're not equipped to handle this." So he was moved to Mountain Point Hospital, where we took him in. He immediately went in for imaging, and because of COVID, I was back in the room. My wife went with him to imaging.
Oh, okay.
They brought him back, and I remember they wheeled back behind him a full cooler of blood, pints of blood. And I remember thinking, like, what in the world?
What's going on?
This is bizarre.
Yeah,
He just
right.
went for imaging, and now, and there's a look on my wife's face that wasn't great. And they brought out a document and said, "We need you to sign this, acknowledging that he can have transfusions. He's bleeding inside, and we've got some problems." And I said, well, "What are we talking about? You know?
Yeah. What's going on?
They said we need to prep him for life flight to primaries, where he's going to go." And so it turns out when he had fallen, the handlebars had turned, and he had taken the handlebar through his liver. And so it cut his liver entirely in half. And so it was a grade 5, which is the most severe laceration of a liver you can have. It was right through the trunk of the liver, which looks like a tree. And so it literally just cut the tree right in half. And then he had a traumatic brain injury. He was bleeding on his brain, and his elbow was broken. So we started to realize, COVID, they put him on the helicopter. We couldn't go in the helicopter. They took him up. We drove on a snowy night up there, and we spent the next month in primaries with him. And
no way.
Wow. It was really ugly, unfortunate.
And you had no idea the handlebars had gone through his stomach.
No indication that there was anything wrong. Looking back and hearing the sound, I should have, but I didn't know. I didn't even know what a liver was. I'm like, cool, a body part.
Well, again, like we said before we went on air, we're all doing our best.
Yeah.
You were doing your best with what you knew, and you just, we do that every time our kids we're assessing, and we're like, okay, we're not doctors. Okay, I think everything's okay.
Yeah.
And let's go back home, and maybe you just need to rest. And
yeah,
I think anyone listening to this would have done I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah, you just hope he'll bounce back.
I'm not sitting there thinking, well, especially if there was no blood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't assume, well, maybe his liver was severed in half.
Yeah.
And
it was such a bizarre experience. We get up there, and we arrived, and we were met. They have a social worker that comes and meets you when things are severe, right?
Sure,
and they took us back, and I remember they have these big glass doors that open where he's having surgery, and they open up, and he's laying on this table, and they had 20 doctors, nurses, and the room was just packed, and he had no clothes on. He was just laying there, and I remember realizing in that moment, like, okay, like this is severe, right? This is a little more extreme, and they moved him, after they stabilized him. So they put him into an induced coma, where he stayed, and moved him to the traumatic brain injury floor, and they opened him from chest down to 4 or 5 inches below his belly button. Dang. And he stayed that way for the next 4 or 5 days, stayed open because they were trying to pack it and then unpack from the bleeding. And and so we could go in and see him, but he obviously wasn't there. And we had the whole experience of sort of saying goodbye and not being sure of what the future was, and we were getting different messages. They weren't sure what to do and how to fix it, and then it was just a process to work through. And even today, he's had 3 or 4 emergency surgeries since then, from scar tissue that's closing off parts of his different organs, his intestines. And, in fact, as we speak right now, he had the morning off because he calls it his liver pain. He doubles over, and so fingers crossed we won't be back there.
Sure.
We've made it a year since his last surgery.
Oh, really?
And so we're grateful.
That is amazing.
That it's been that far, but we feel like we're trending in the.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I know that's not easy to talk about, so thank you for being willing to share that. And again, that's why when I saw, that, you've mastered the art of gleaning wisdom from adversity, that really stood out to me. And obviously when you see a loved one, especially one of your children,
Yeah. The one you're
right?
supposed to protect, right?
Yeah. But again, it could happen to any of us. Right. And we won't process it here on this podcast, but,
Yeah.
but thank you for sharing. And yeah, you may not be able to connect the dots fully around this yet, but you will, right? You'll be able to look back and go, man, that led to this and this led to that. And,
Yeah.
it'll be one of those amazing experiences to be able to see it that way.
I'm sure it will. I hope it will. We went on a drive just a few weeks ago, and Bentley said, "Hey, can we go stop by the bike park? We haven't been back since then." And my wife said, "Yeah, we'll do it, and we'll go." And I just, I couldn't even get out of the car. I just sat there and sobbed for 40 minutes while they were up there, and and my wife, she, bless her heart, she said, even this morning said, you have some things to process and some things to work through, and some guilt. And, there's a lot of embarrassment that I didn't catch him right, that I wasn't there, that I didn't protect him the way I should have. And you hear all of the answers, right? Like, oh, it would have happened to anyone, and it's not your fault. And I understand, I understand
Sure.
generally those comments, but, as a father and protector, it feels like a really big failure. And to look at the consequences of that continue, it's heartbreaking and tough to work through. But he's alive, and I look at my wife and what she was able to accomplish through all of this. I was a mess, and she was just so stalwart and strong. And I look at her battles and think, man, these dots connected, right? And she's there she's just been there for every little thing.
I often say to my clients, adversity is the wake up call to your greatness.
Oh yeah. Love it.
And that's what's happening. It's like, it's refining you guys. It's purifying you, if you will. It's exposing you to the reality of how great you guys really are.
Yeah.
And I really am of the belief, and there's so much proof, that people are just astonishing.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
But if that's true, so are you, Taylor.
Yeah.
You're astonishing.
Wow.
I mean, seriously, and I don't say that lightly, I really truly believe that to my core. Just listening to you and sitting here with you. I mean, I meet with people all day long. I've been doing this for 30 something years. I can read people really well. I can feel energy. I can tell when someone's lying typically, and when someone's not being authentic or genuine, and this and that. And dude, I know you're a good person.
Well, thank you. It's been a journey, and it's really helped me to understand that we're all going through different things. And I look at people that we were in the hospital with who weren't able to go home with their children, and the woman who randomly folded our underwear in the hospital, who left it neatly folded on a dryer when we were struggling. It was like those little gestures that people have, that goodness they have. And shame on me for being so selfish for so long and not seeing that. But these experiences, they change us, and they give us a new view. And I look at where I'm at now, and I tend to be pretty open about my mental health and my anxiety and the worry, even at times like right now, where my son is dealing with this pain in his stomach, and I'm processing like, okay, we're going to go back, and he's going to have to be cut open again, and he's going to have to go through all of this, and what's that going to do to our family? And my daughters are going to be, alone for a little while we're back up there. It's just, you go through so many different emotions, but I've just found that when we can be open and vulnerable and be willing to share, that it makes us stronger. And I think so many of us, specifically men, we feel like we have to be the protector, and that you can't let that shield down at all. And so we just bury these things deep, and we don't process. And I've been so privileged in the last couple of years to connect with guys that are struggling with different things, who have been through similar things or different things, right? And we're all in this journey together and trying to do the best we can. And thanks to people like you who are willing to create a place where we can talk about these things, and we can express our gratitude and our learnings and build relationships. Because before that, I think if this would have happened 20 years ago, I would have just been in a totally different place.
Yeah, it really is good that we have, communities and groups and these kind of platforms like podcasts and stuff, where we can get vulnerable.
Yeah.
And actually vulnerability is a strength. It's not a weakness, whereas we once maybe thought of it the other way.
So
You
true.
know, what I've learned is that when vulnerability goes up, happiness goes up. When vulnerability goes down, happiness goes down.
Yeah,
But it's scary a little bit to be vulnerable,
it is.
like to put your heart out there, because some people might take it the wrong way, or they might not see it the way you did, or maybe your expectations, well, I was vulnerable, why did they react that way?
Yeah.
And then we're like, well, maybe I won't be vulnerable again. So to hear you today, even, I mean, get vulnerable on here. I mean, I feel more connected to you because of the vulnerability.
Yeah, isn't that the amazing part?
It's amazing.
Right?
Like I almost feel like I've known you my whole
Yeah.
life. We're
Yeah.
just sitting here and we're having just a vulnerable chat.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know you.
And what's so interesting is that
Right?
every time you do that, every time you visit with somebody, I've never had an experience where I've walked away feeling worse.
Right.
And I go, man, like, why aren't we all just talking about this, right? And being vulnerable doesn't mean you're weak,
yeah.
right? It's a step toward being strong, and I think that thankfully there are voices now that are helping people to learn
sure.
that, and we're able to speak up and stand up. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think going back to business, we have great companies that are willing to acknowledge that their people are struggling, that they might need time, and that they're working through things in their own lives. And so the climate is really ripe, I think, for this type of conversation.
Yeah.
It's been
And,
great.
you know, and vulnerability too, to stay on that for a minute, is the best way to connect with someone.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That's how relationships are built. We meet someone for the first time and we might say like, hey, what's your favorite food? Oh, it's pizza. Oh, so is mine.
Yeah.
And it's a simple little question, but yet that's a little bit of vulnerability. And then it's like, oh, it was safe to talk to Taylor about that. Ooh, I might share this. And then you respond this way, and then you share something with me.
Yeah.
And slowly it becomes, but we got right to it with some heavy stuff,
Yeah.
right? We
Jumped
got
right
right
in.
there.
Hey,
but,
why not?
But again, we connected, you know?
Yeah.
And connection is powerful. We're never more fully alive than when we're connected,
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
right?
Yeah. It's an amazing tool that I think serves us well and brings about a lot of change
Yeah.
when we can build those connections and those relationships. And I found that, you know, there's no better learning than being open with someone, because those people help you understand that sometimes you're so wrapped up in your story that you can't really tell what's accurate and what's not, what's truth, what's a lie.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes just unpacking things for people, a good friend, a spouse,
Yeah.
a family member,
For sure.
you know, can really do a lot of good. And
Yeah.
I still have a long way to go, you know, thinking about some of the more recent experiences.
Do you remember Mr. Rogers?
Oh,
Right, back in the day, growing
Yeah.
up with Mr. Rogers, and you know, I saw the documentary and the movie. Maybe you did too, but he said something I thought was so profound. He says, "If you can mention it, you can manage it."
yeah.
And I love that. It's true. If you can mention these things to
Yeah.
someone, like you said, a trusted person, you can start to manage it. You can start to
Yeah.
get through it. You can start processing it. You can start
Yeah.
eventually being at peace with it. And when you're at peace with it, that's when you can connect the dots. Man, look at that.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring up Mr. Rogers, one of my favorite quotes from him. We're going back to our childhood.
right
You know,
on.
this is back
Yeah.
to the good old days. And but you know, there's that famous quote, and I'll butcher it, but the summary is that, you know, when things are really difficult, you can always look for the helpers. There are always people helping, right?
Yeah, the helpers.
And I think that you know, people like you and others, there's so many good people willing to help. The issue is whether or not I think we're willing to open up. And I'm still learning how to do this, and have a long way to go. But people are amazing.
Yeah.
Like, truly, people are just amazing, and their experiences that they go through, just like mine, have connected the dots and put them in a place where they can help me and they can help others. And I hope that, you know, my own story helps in some way, with the full giant disclosure that there's a lot to be written still, and that I haven't
Yeah.
really processed things. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm out of anything yet. So
Well, this is a good step.
yeah,
in the right
one
direction.
step forward, right?
So what are any future plans? Do you have anything big on the horizon that you've been thinking of or wanting to do, whether it's on the business side of things or if it's with your family?
Yeah, you know, my mind is always moving. I am like one of those serial thinkers that always has some
love it.
ideas on the horizon.
Uh-huh.
You know, I have a lot of admiration for founders, and what they do, and I look at the founders we have now at Pronto and those that I've worked with before. And I think it's a really admirable thing. And so I think all the time about like what's ahead and what am I looking at? My wife and I, we've been kind of thinking through different ideas around things that we're passionate about. One of those being, how do we help the youth of today to connect with their parents?
Okay.
We have a very probably too open of a relationship with our kids. We talk openly. We are very protective of the devices they have and their access to pornography and in the internet and things,
Sure.
recognizing
Love
we
that.
can't block them from everything.
Sure.
But we can teach them how to engage with those things in a healthy way.
I love that.
We look at some of the youth that are struggling that we know, and so many of those youth are struggling because the relationship between them and their parents has broken down. That dialogue and that discussion, we try to meet with our kids, try being the key word, every week or every 2 weeks on Sundays, and we meet one-on-one. We try to visit and engage and talk about the uncomfortable things, the hard things. And
Good for you.
so we're thinking about things there and what more can we do. And but more importantly, I think, my kids are growing, and I read a statistic years ago, and I've tried to find it, and so this could be totally wrong. So forgive me if someone fact checks this.
Right.
But it said something to the effect of by the age of 12, your children have spent 80% of the time they'll ever spend with you, and that's an alarming statistic, right?
Yeah, that
And makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I look at my 15, 16-year-old, soon to be 16-year-old, and he's with friends, he's in football, and my daughter's in cheer, and they're always gone and always away, and
always busy.
and then they get married, and you get them once a week, once every few weeks for a dinner,
and that's if they stay in the same
if
state.
they stay, right?
They might move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the one thing I've been so grateful for in our marriage and in our family is my wife is my best friend, and we
Nice.
have so much fun as a family that the more we can do together, the better. And so we do all of our trips together. We spend a lot of time together. It's a very loud household. But when I think about what's on the horizon and what I'm interested in, I really hope that I can maximize the next few years, because my son will be gone soon.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
And then, by that time I think, okay, 3 more years before he leaves and ventures out, before he's 18. And so, I'll be 43 and I have my whole life ahead of me to repurpose into businesses and other things. And right now I have an opportunity to be with kids, and
That's awesome.
and that's what I try to prioritize.
I love it. Now, are you only on LinkedIn?
I am.
That really stood out to me. And I actually, if I think the reason why, I'm assuming, but I love that. And I want to just, if you could quickly tell us, why are you only on LinkedIn? Because a lot of people say, well, why aren't you on the other platforms?
Yeah.
But I think it's great.
My wife and I are my wife's not even on LinkedIn. I think she has an account maybe, but she's not on any social media. So I think there's a couple of things. And the first being, and I say this cautiously, so if I can just put that disclaimer.
That's okay. This is cautious. Everyone, write it down.
I have yet to meet someone who has been thrilled that they are on social media. And that's not to say there's not good, because there are amazing people doing amazing things.
I know. Yeah.
But I think
Love it.
generally speaking, or maybe setting that aside and just talking about myself specifically, I think there are a couple of things that have really been problematic for me. One is a sense of inadequacy, a sense that I'm not keeping up, that as a father and as a husband that I'm not providing what I should for my wife and kids. And that's been an internal battle for me. I know that not all men and women are that way, and so that may not be an issue for some. And I found that so that's kind of the first thing. I'm just better off without it. I'm better off comparing myself to who I was yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Sure. Love that.
And so there's that. The other one, and really what the catalyst was I had an Instagram account 10 years ago, and I started to get wrapped up in pornography, and it's interesting to think about pornography on Instagram, right? Like,
Right.
oh, is that, it's not, that's not possible. That's not happening. And, it's a different form. And, I started to have feelings and started to get attracted to that sensation and what that was providing me. And that was dangerous for me. And, I hurt my wife through that. And it's one of the hardest things for me to look back at was the pain I caused her as a wife. The feeling that she wasn't good enough, that I had a longing for something else, which was entirely false, but my actions didn't show that. And
right. Wow.
And so I learned through that moment that whether it's Instagram, whether it's a magazine, whether it's a billboard, a DVD, which back in the day, DVDs, something that streams on Netflix or YouTube TV, that pornography is a killer.
Yeah.
And I was at a place, thankfully, where it hadn't become too deep, that when I realized how much damage I had done and the relationships that I had hurt, and I realized the consequence of that if I didn't get things right, I was going to be in a much different place a few years down the road.
Yeah, wow.
And thankfully, I had an amazing wife who, despite being hurt, and it took her some time, it took her some time to process and to come back to me. She did what I think any reasonable person would do by saying, hey, you need to get this in check or else, right? Like there's going to be consequences to that. And that wasn't a threat. That was reality.
Yeah.
And that was a heavy weight to carry for a while.
Yeah.
She eventually came back to me and she said, hey, and this was the most meaningful thing she's ever done in our relationship. She came back and we were having dinner and she said, I shared with you a while back that you get this fixed or else. And she apologized and she said, I think that was the wrong approach. And she said, I want you to know that I'm here to help and I'm here to support you.
Wow.
I'm not happy with your decisions and they hurt and they cut really deep, but I don't want you feeling like you're going to lose everything if you make a mistake. And I had been good for a couple of years, good in the sense that I hadn't fallen back into that.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was out of fear. And it's amazing what type of behavioral change can come when you're empowered or you're supported to do better,
right?
Not because of fear. And from that moment, I just said, you know what? My responsibility and obligation is to protect myself from things that I'm tempted by.
Yeah.
And for me, and I think for many men, if we're honest with ourselves, pornography is one of those things for our youth, our teenage boys, our teenage girls.
Yeah.
And I've taken some flack for this a little bit. People who've been like, oh, you just got to be stronger. I can't believe that. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. And for me, being on a platform where I can see people that appear to be better than me, or I see women that are willing to reveal certain things, that's not a healthy place for me. Sure. And I'm not better because of it. And so I stepped back and said, the most important thing to me is and should be my wife and children. And if I don't want to risk losing that or making a mistake, then I need to put up some barriers and put up some boundaries. And I've been off since then.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
I know there are good things that I miss for sure. And so that's not to say that all social media is bad. And other people are more disciplined than I am.
Right.
And so I think that there's a case for that.
Well, you did what was best for you.
I did what was best for me to ensure that what was best for my wife and kids was
For sure.
there. And in an ideal world, I would be so strong and capable that wouldn't be a temptation, but it wasn't, or it's not. And so I put up the boundaries and try to focus on what I can control and avoid the things that I know are going to cause me heartache or cause someone else heartache in the long run. And so hopefully that's the right thing. I think looking at it now, none of my kids are on social media and none of them have asked for it. And so for a 15, 16-year-old, I'm really pleased. I'm happy that we've sort of established what was right for our family. And I hope that serves well in the long run. There's always the naysayers who will be like, well, they're going to get out in the real world and it's going to just blow up because they're going to have endless access to this. And that might be true. But I hope that we've taught them a healthy relationship with technology, and we've talked openly with our kids about pornography and my struggles, and that what my daughter should think and how they should respect themselves and what to do when young boys pursue something. We've taught my son the same thing about how to behave and the consequences of pornography on a relationship and the long-term effect of that, which is something I think we miss a lot when we're talking to our kids.
Yeah.
It's the long-term effect of this. I think most people tend to approach it as a faith-based discussion, which I think is fine. But I think the better thing is to really help our kids understand the long-term effect of alcohol or drugs
For
or
sure.
the 10 years down the
Yeah.
road with pornography and what that looks like.
Wow, well said.
So I don't know if it's
Love
right
it.
or wrong, Todd. I could be totally wrong.
No,
in a
I
few
think
years,
I
but
think most people listening to this would go, that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
and I respect that you do that and that you put yourself through that and that you're willing to go, you know what, this isn't serving me.
Mhm.
And I love what you said. I have to be honest with myself.
Yeah.
So anyone listening to this, just be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy
It's
to
uncomfortable.
do. It's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So well said. Wow, man, you're just very well spoken, Taylor. Thank you for
Thanks
sharing that. If there's someone listening to your voice right now and they're in a bad place, they're struggling, they're in a dark place, not sure how to get out of wherever they're at, but they're listening
Mhm.
to you right now, what would you tell that one person right now?
I think that I've always joked that if I could get a billboard along I-15, I would ride on it. It's okay. Nobody else has it figured out either. And
Right?
I think that, I hope that people who are in a dark place where I've surely been, and I know others are, it's okay. And we're all trying to do the best we can. And that dark place, if you continue on, will get better. The stories that we tell ourselves aren't always the honest ones. And I think the challenge for people who are in a dark place, and I look back at my own experience, when I was in a dark place, I couldn't get myself out of it. I couldn't get my thoughts clear enough to help me get out of that again. And it wasn't until I realized that there are amazing people who will listen, who won't pass judgment, who will help. And these aren't just therapists, right? These are friends and loved ones.
Sure.
And I learned that I'm not alone through that. I learned to rely on people and let people help and lift, which was always uncomfortable for me. And so I think I would just encourage people to step back and as best you can, step out of your situation, realize that not everybody has it figured out.
Yeah.
And that the best thing you can do is find somebody who will be in your corner. And for me,
Yeah.
that was my wife,
Sure.
who's been in my corner through
Yeah.
the ugly times and the good times.
Yeah.
For others, it might be a parent, a sibling, a friend,
Yeah.
might be a stranger. But there are amazing people who are willing to support and help. But we have to be willing to talk about our struggles and our battles.
sure.
And the one thing that's been so interesting through all of my experiences, pornography, through dealing with my wife and some of her struggles and trying to help there through my son and those experiences, is every time I've shared something that's personal, that's hard, that's vulnerable, people have really come to my aid.
Exactly.
And there's never been judgment. And I
Yeah.
go, man, if people would just be there. I just learned yesterday about a friend of mine who had a dear friend who committed suicide, I think yesterday. And I think we've got to be there. We've got to do better, and we've got to open up and share our experiences and let people know that they're not alone. And so I hope those that might be in that spot right now, that
Yeah.
they understand this is just a season.
Yeah.
I might be there next week. I might be there next year. And I'll surely be looking to people like you to hopefully help lift me out of it.
Sure.
And so,
Wow, beautifully said. Great words for anyone who's struggling. And yeah, wow, this has been fantastic.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been so good to have you on here. Like really, truly, the vulnerability you're expressing has been inspiring.
Well,
Like truly.
it's a privilege to be on the podcast. And, I was joking with my wife, as I'm sure everybody who comes on this podcast does. I was looking at the people you've had on previously. And I just think I am like out of my depth here, like these just amazing, amazing people. A guy I admire recently you just had on, Nate Randall.
Yeah,
he and
Nate's the man.
Yeah, we
Love Nate.
we've been connected for a little while. And,
Yeah, he's
and I just
amazing.
think, there are such great people, and I definitely don't feel like I have as much to add, but I appreciate you having me on and being
Yeah.
willing to talk
Well,
through this. It's been helpful for me to
Good. I hope so.
sort of step back and
Yeah.
try to take a step forward and process some things.
No.
So
Well, I often say there's no special people in the world, or we're all special. Your worth was set the moment you were born. It doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't go up or down. It stays the same. We're all the same.
Yeah.
We're all
That's a great way.
astonishing, like I said earlier.
Great way to look
You're
at it.
astonishing, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Happy to come and appreciate the friendship, man.
Awesome. Well, if you want to reach out to Taylor, he's on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn.
And that's about it.
It's the only place
It's
you'll
the only
find
place.
me.
But reach out to him. Check him out. Ask him a question. If you have someone who's struggling with anything, just regular life stuff, or if it's heavier stuff, send him a link to this episode to kind of, give him some hope and follow back up with them. This will be one of the best ways to do it. And yeah, this was awesome, man. I feel edified, man. Thank you.
As do I. It couldn't have been better, man. Thanks again for having me. This is
you bet, man.
Something I won't forget.
Well, there you go, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I love you guys as always. Again, thanks to my sponsors. Thanks to Paul Cardall and the beautiful music. I love you for everything, man. And till next time, everyone, take care.